Welcome to everybody. My name is Francesco Di Domenico and I'm working in Application and Systems at Infineon Technologies. Today we are going to talk about switch mode power supplies with particular focus on the contribution of Infineon Components to this important field of application. Let's try to understand what a switch mode power supply is. It is basically a system consisting of three main stages: a PFC, PWM and rectification stage. The role of the PFC is to ensure that the input current and voltages are as much as possible in phase. That means power factor almost 1. This is the reason of this name, power factor correction. Second stage, the PWM stage, provides first of all a galvanic isolation through a main transformer, and this is related to safety reasons. And second important task is to provide an intermediate inverter generating a high frequency alternate voltage which is applied to the primary side of the main transformer. And then on the secondary side of this transformer we find the so-called rectification stage, which can be done by diodes or by MOSFETs. In that case we talk about synchronous rectification. The main task of this stage is to generate a continuous voltage which, after the final output filtering, gives us the desired regulated and stabilized voltage. Every time we talk about SMPS, we talk today about efficiency standards, efficiency trends. In this picture you can see one of the most popular standards in matter of SMPS efficiency, the very famous 80+ standard, from the very original one to the most recent, very common today, 80+ platinum. You see that these standards fix the minimum required efficiency at three fundamental load conditions of the SMPS: 20%, 50% and 100% of load. But that's not enough. There is a new one just released, the so-called 80+ titanium, which introduces minimum required efficiency even at 10% of max load, which means extremely light load. And this is according to the typical operation of SMPS in modern computing applications. But at this point, let's try to understand why high efficiency in SMPS. What's the main reason of this important requirement? And this picture, this helps us to understand a little bit more about it. In fact, these pictures shows a data center of a modern social network organization, one of the most famous. But it would be really similar inside, for example, a web research engine or a government organization or a bank or a hospital. So in one sentence, data centers become more and more important in our daily life. How does a data center in reality look like? So let's start from a theoretical schematic, a block diagram, starting from a 480 VAC three-phase input, followed by a UPS stage, including a battery pack, and then a power distribution unit, including a transformer for the required galvanic isolation needed, and then some protection devices against overcurrent or overload in general, which are typically electronic breakers. And then we have the final monophase AC voltage, 208 volt, applied to each racks inside the structure of the data center. The rack, and you can see the picture on the left side of this slide, is a sort of, I would say, of stack of more servers. Inside each server, what can we find? Simply a switch mode power supply as the first stage, the so-called front-end power supply. The role and task of this front-end power supply is to generate a plus 12 volt continuous and stabilized, which is input for all the following DC-DC converters, supplying the server loads for each specific application. So basically the pictures are very clear: rack, servers, SMPS. And so we can easily understand that for sure there are a lot of SMPS inside a data center. The following graph explains a little bit more in details the reason of this big importance of high efficient SMPS. Based on this study done in the US, the contribution of the power supply is the most important in the annual savings in energy and so in money per rack inside data centers. And Infineon Technologies is fully aware of this importance of high efficient power supply, SMPS, especially for computing applications. And so on the left side of this slide, you can find a list of Infineon components, so power semiconductor devices, controllers, drivers, which can find application in all the three stages of SMPS, PFC, PWM, and synchronous rectification. What's the goal? The goal is to achieve the best possible efficiency in each of these three stages. And finally, to come to an overall efficiency which is able to fulfill, to meet the 80+ platinum standard, which is really key requirement in today's SMPS world. So, thank you very much for your attention, and for any further information you may need, you can check our Infineon website.